A decorated black naval officer is publicly humiliated and dragged from first class. But in 10 minutes, everyone on that plane will be begging her to come back. I don't care what you claim to be. You're getting out of this seat now. The flight attendant's hand clamped onto her shoulder and shoved hard enough that her water bottle toppled, spilling across the leather armrest as passengers gasped and pulled out phones. Admiral Angela Matthews, 28 years of military service, over 4,000 flight hours, 2 combat tours, sat frozen, her hands trembling in her lap as humiliation washed over her in waves she couldn't control. Melissa Crawford stood over her with perfectly manicured nails and a smile sharp as broken glass, radiating the kind of confidence that comes from never once facing real consequences for cruelty. What Melissa didn't know was that in exactly 9 minutes, a medical emergency would turn her power into helplessness, and the woman she was humiliating would become the only thing standing between 187 people and death. I showed you my ticket. Angela's voice was steady despite the heat burning her cheeks. Seat 2B. First class. I paid for it myself. And I told you that seat is reserved for our Platinum Elite members. Melissa's voice dripped with false patience. You clearly don't understand how airline status works. I've flown over 3 million miles in my career. I understand exactly how it works. Melissa's eyes raked over Angela, her navy dress blues, her chest full of ribbons, her close-cropped natural hair, her dark skin. The flight attendant's lip curled slightly. Those ribbons real or costume? She said it just loud enough for nearby passengers to hear. Because we've had problems with people impersonating military for upgrades. The insult landed like a physical blow. Angela had earned every ribbon on her chest. The Silver Star for valor in combat. The Distinguished Flying Cross. The Navy Commendation Medal with Combat v. 28 years of service to a country that still questioned whether she belonged in first class. I'm Rear Admiral Angela Matthews, United States Navy, she said quietly. And I would appreciate it if you'd verify my ticket with the gate agent instead of accusing me of fraud. Oh, you're an admiral. Melissa's laugh was ugly. Right. And I'm the Queen of England. I'm going to ask you one more time to move to your assigned seat in economy, or I'll have you removed from this aircraft. This is my assigned seat. Don't raise your voice at me. Melissa's hand went to her radio. Security, this is Flight 2156. I need assistance in first class. Passenger refusing to comply with crew instructions. A white man in seat 2A, expensive suit, wedding ring, guilty eyes, finally spoke up. Miss, I saw her board. She had a first-class ticket. I don't think. Sir, I need you to stay out of this. Melissa's smile never wavered. This doesn't concern you. But it did concern the young black woman in seat 4C, who stood up with her phone recording. This is discrimination. She has a valid ticket, and you're harassing her. Sit down, or you're next, Melissa snapped. But this was only the beginning. 2 airport security officers arrived within minutes. Angela recognized the look on their faces, the assumption, the judgment, the certainty that the black woman must be the problem. We're going to need you to come with us, the taller officers said. Officers, my name is Rear Admiral Angela Matthews. I'm traveling on orders from Naval Air Station North Island in San Diego. My ticket is for seat 2B, first class. This flight attendant is refusing to verify my ticket and has accused me of fraud. The officers exchanged glances. Do you have ID? The shorter one asked. Angela pulled out her military ID and her orders. Her hands were shaking now. From anger, from humiliation, from the bone-deep exhaustion of having to prove her humanity over and over again. The taller officer examined her ID. His expression shifted slightly. This says Rear Admiral. That's correct. As in, the Navy. Yes, United States Navy. I'm a naval aviator. I've been in service for 28 years. Melissa scoffed. Anyone can fake an ID. Officers, I know what I saw. This woman boarded with a suspicious ticket, and when I questioned her, she became aggressive and claimed to be military. I am military. See? Aggressive. Melissa turned to the officers with practiced concern. I don't feel safe with her on this aircraft. She needs to be removed. The taller officer looked uncomfortable. Admiral, do you have your ticket? Angela pulled up her mobile boarding pass. Seat 2B. First class. Purchased 3 weeks ago with her personal credit card. The officer showed it to Melissa. Her ticket's valid. Then there's been an error in the system, Melissa said smoothly. But regardless, her behavior has been disruptive. I have the right to deny boarding to any passenger I deem a safety risk. A safety risk. Angela's voice rose despite her best efforts to stay calm. I've been sitting quietly in my assigned seat. The only person being disruptive is you. That's it. Officers, remove her. Melissa crossed her arms. Now, would you have stayed quiet in her position? The shorter officer reached for Angela's arm. Don't touch me. Angela stood up, pulling her small carry-on from the overhead bin. I'll leave, but I want this documented. I want her name, your names, and a formal complaint filed with the airline. You can file whatever you want, Melissa said sweetly, but you're not flying on this aircraft. As Angela walked down the aisle, every eye on her, every phone recording her humiliation, she heard Melissa announce cheerfully, "Sorry for the delay, folks. We'll be underway shortly." The young woman from 4C followed Angela off the plane. Admiral, I recorded everything. If you need a witness. Thank you. Angela's voice was thick with unshed tears. I appreciate that. In the terminal, the security officers were apologetic. For what it's worth, I believe you, the taller one said quietly. My brother's in the Air Force. I recognize the real thing when I see it. But that flight attendant, she has a history of complaints. Nothing ever sticks. Why not? Airline says it's her word against passengers. And she's been with American Airlines for 15 years. They protect her. Angela felt the weight of it settle on her shoulders. She'd flown combat missions in Iraq. She'd commanded a squadron of 200 personnel. She'd broken barriers as one of the first black female naval aviators. And still, she'd been thrown off a plane because a racist flight attendant decided she didn't belong. There's another flight in 2 hours, the officer offered. I can make sure you get on it. Thank you. Angela found a seat at the gate and buried her face in her hands. What she didn't know was that Flight 2156 had just pushed back from the gate, and in 7 minutes, everything would go wrong. Captain Robert Hayes and First Officer Jennifer Martinez were running through their pre-flight checklist when the first symptom hit. You okay? Jennifer asked, noticing Robert wipe his forehead. Yeah, just warm. They have the heat cranked up in here. It's like 70 degrees. Who? Robert blinked. His vision was blurring slightly. That's weird. 2 minutes later, they were at 10,000 feet when Jennifer's hands started trembling. Rob, something's wrong. I feel it too. His head was pounding now. His vision kept doubling. Radio tower. Tell them we need to return to Dallas. Jennifer reached for the radio, but her fingers wouldn't cooperate. The MIC slipped from her shaking hand. Rob, I can't move my hands right. In the cabin, Melissa was serving drinks when she noticed the teenage boy in seat 8B slumped against the window. Honey, you okay? He didn't respond. She checked his pulse. Rapid, thready. His forehead was burning up. Anyone a doctor? Melissa called out. A man in 12A raised his hand. Physician's assistant. He examined the boy quickly. Fever, confusion, tremors. When did this start? I don't know. I just noticed. The doctor himself suddenly swayed. I don't feel good. Then a woman in first class vomited. Then another passenger. Then Melissa felt it, the sudden wave of nausea, the fever spiking so far she could feel sweat break out across her skin. Something's wrong, she whispered. And then the cockpit door opened, and First Officer Martinez stumbled out, barely conscious. We need help, Jennifer gasped, gripping the doorframe. Captain's incapacitated. I can barely see. Something's wrong with us. Melissa's training kicked in despite her own growing symptoms. She helped Jennifer to a seat and grabbed the PA system. Ladies and gentlemen, this is an emergency. If there's anyone on board with flight experience, we need you in the cockpit immediately. Silence. She tried again, her voice shaking. Please, this is not a drill. Both pilots are incapacitated. We need someone who can fly this aircraft. The cabin erupted in panic. Passengers were crying, calling loved ones, holding hands with strangers. In seat 2B, where Angela should have been sitting, a tech executive from Dallas was too sick to even lift his head. Melissa made her way to the cockpit on trembling legs. Captain Hayes was slumped in his seat, semi-conscious. The plane was on autopilot, but they were still climbing. They needed to level off, turn around, communicate with Tower. They needed a pilot. Tower, this is American 2156, Melissa said into the radio, her words slurring. Both pilots incapacitated. Multiple passengers sick. We need emergency assistance. 2156, copy. What are your symptoms? Fever, tremors, confusion, vision problems. I think it's spreading through the whole plane. 2156, is there anyone on board who can fly the aircraft? No one's responded to the call. In the tower at Dallas-Fort Worth, the air traffic controller's face went white. 2156, maintain current heading. We're clearing all airspace and getting emergency crews ready. How many souls on board? 187 passengers and crew. Copy that. 2156, we're going to talk you through an emergency landing. I can't fly a plane. I don't know how to. We need you to stay calm. We have pilots here who can guide you through every step. Can you see the controls? Melissa looked at the bewildering array of instruments, switches, screens. Yes, but I don't know what any of it means. Her vision was getting worse. The fever was climbing. She had maybe 10 minutes before she'd be as incapacitated as the pilots. 10 minutes to learn how to land a Boeing 737 with 187 lives depending on her. If only she knew who she'd just thrown off the plane. At the gate, Angela was on her phone with Naval Air Station North Island explaining why she'd miss her scheduled briefing when the gate agent's radio squawked urgently. All personnel, we have an emergency. Flight 2156 reporting both pilots incapacitated. Multiple passengers sick. Aircraft requesting emergency return to DFW. Angela's head snapped up. Flight 2156. Her flight. The flight she'd been thrown off of 9 minutes ago. The gate agent was running to the desk, making calls. Angela followed. What's happening? I can't discuss. I'm a Rear Admiral and a naval aviator with over 4,000 flight hours. What is happening? The gate agent's eyes widened. Both pilots are sick. They're trying to get a flight attendant to land the plane, but she's getting sick too. It sounds like some kind of contamination. Food poisoning, maybe, or toxic fumes. It's spreading through the whole aircraft. Angela's mind was already running calculations. Boeing 737. 2 pilots down. Spreading illness. Passengers at risk. How far out are they? Maybe 20 miles. They're turning back now. I need to talk to the tower. Right now. I can't just. Angela pulled out her military ID. I'm a qualified pilot on multiple aircraft, including the 737. I can help. Get me to the tower, or those people are going to die. The gate agent grabbed his radio. Security. I need immediate escort for a Rear Admiral to the tower. Emergency assistance for Flight 2156. Copy. Sending someone now. The same 2 security officers who'd escorted Angela off the plane came running. Admiral, we need to move fast, the taller one said. They ran through the terminal, passengers scattering out of their way. In the tower, the air traffic controller looked up as Angela burst through the door. Who are you? Rear Admiral Angela Matthews, U.S. Navy. I'm a pilot. I was supposed to be on Flight 2156 until I was removed by a flight attendant. I'm qualified on the 737. I can help. The controller's expression flooded with relief. Thank God. We're trying to walk the flight attendant through the controls, but she's deteriorating fast. He handed Angela a headset. Flight 2156. This is Admiral Angela Matthews. I'm a naval aviator, and I'm here to help you land this aircraft. Who am I speaking with? There was a pause. Then a familiar voice, weak and scared. This is Melissa Crawford. I'm the head flight attendant. Angela closed her eyes briefly. The woman who'd humiliated her, accused her of fraud, had her thrown off the plane. The woman who now needed her to save her life. Be honest. What would you have done? Angela took a breath. She had a choice. She could let her anger win. Could walk away. Could let Melissa Crawford face the consequences of her actions. But then she thought about the 187 people on that plane. The innocent passengers. The crew members who'd done nothing wrong. The children and elderly and people who were just trying to get home. And she thought about the oath she'd taken 28 years ago. To protect and serve. Not to protect and save only the people who treated her well. To protect and serve. Period. Melissa, I need you to listen very carefully, Angela said, her voice calm and authoritative. I know you're scared. I know you're sick. But I'm going to get you through this. Do you trust me? A sob came through the radio. Yes. Good. First, how are you feeling? Can you see the instruments? Barely. Everything's blurry. I'm so hot. I think I'm going to pass out. You're not going to pass out. You're going to focus on my voice and do exactly what I tell you. Is there anyone else in the cockpit with you? The captain's here, but he's unconscious. The first officer's in a passenger seat. Okay, Melissa, I need you to check the autopilot. There should be a button labeled AP or autopilot. Tell me if it's engaged. Silence. Then, I see it. It says, yes, engaged. Perfect. The plane is flying itself right now. That gives us time. Now, look at the altimeter, the instrument that shows altitude. What does it say? 12,000 something. 12,000 feet. Good. We're going to keep you at that altitude. Now I need you to look at your heading, the direction you're flying. There should be a compass display. I see numbers. 2, 1, 4. You're heading 214 degrees southwest. We need to turn you around to heading 030 to line you up with the runway. Melissa, in front of you is a panel with controls. I need you to find the heading select knob. I don't know what that is. You can do this. Look for a knob with numbers around it, probably labeled HDG or heading. Okay, I see something. Good. I want you to turn it slowly to the right until the numbers read 030. Very slowly. Melissa's breathing was ragged over the radio. It's moving. The numbers are changing. Perfect. Stop when it reaches 030. It says 030. Excellent. You just turned the plane around. You're doing great, Melissa. But here's the part that changed everything. In the tower, Angela was studying the radar screen while maintaining constant communication with Melissa. The controller leaned over. Admiral, we've got a problem. Weather's moving in from the west. We've got wind shear warnings and heavy turbulence forecast for the next 20 minutes. Angela's jaw tightened. Landing a 737 was hard enough for a trained pilot. For a flight attendant who'd never touched a control yoke in turbulence, while sick, the odds were bad. What about alternate airports? She asked. Alliance is closer, but they don't have the equipment for an emergency this size. Love Field could work, but they are reporting the same weather. Then we do it, hey. We have the best emergency response. She keyed the MIC. Melissa, how are you holding up? I'm getting wise. My hands are shaking so bad I can barely hold the radio. And Admiral, I know who you are. I know what I did to you. Angela didn't respond to that. Not yet. We don't have time for that conversation right now. We need to focus on getting this plane down. Can you do that? I don't know if I can. There are so many people on this plane. What if I kill them all? What if, Melissa, look at me. Angela's voice cut through the panic. Not literally, but I need you to focus on my voice. You are not alone up there. I am with you every step of the way. I've landed planes in combat zones with engines on fire. I brought aircraft down on carrier decks in storms. I can land this plane, but I need to do it through your hands. Can you be my hands? A long pause. Then, quieter, yes. Good. Now, I need a status update on the passengers. How many are symptomatic? Melissa called back to the other flight attendants. The report was grim. Maybe 60% of passengers showing symptoms. Crew is almost all sick. 2 passengers who are doctors are trying to help, but they are sick too. What about the galley? Did you serve food yet? Just drinks and snacks in first class. We hadn't started meal service. Angela's mind raced. Melissa, I think it's the air circulation system. Toxic fumes or contamination in the ventilation. That's why it's spreading through the whole plane. But worse in the cockpit where the pilots got the highest exposure. The controller nodded. I'll notify emergency crews. They'll need hazmat. Melissa, we need to land fast. Your symptoms are going to get worse, and we can't risk you losing consciousness. We're going to do this now. Are you ready? No, but I don't have a choice, do I? None of us do. Okay, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to guide you through every single step of the emergency crews are standing by. You have a whole team working to bring you home safely. Admiral, I'm sorry. For what I did. For what I said. I was wrong. And I'm so sorry. Angela closed her eyes. She thought about the humiliation in front of all those passengers. The accusations of fraud. The assumption that a black woman couldn't possibly belong in first class or be who she claimed to be. But she also thought about the scared woman on the other end of this radio who was about to attempt something impossible. Melissa, we'll talk about that when you're on the ground. Right now, I need you to focus. Okay. What nobody knew yet was that the crisis was about to get much worse. Admiral, we have another problem. The controller's voice was tight. The plane's fuel state. Angela checked the data. They're showing 3 hours of fuel. That's plenty for they're losing fuel. Look at the rate of consumption. He was right. The fuel gauge was dropping faster than it should. Melissa, check your fuel gauges. Top center of the panel. What do they read? Left tank says 2,400. Right tank says 1,800. And 30 seconds ago. Melissa read out the previous numbers. They were losing fuel at an alarming rate. We've got a fuel leak, Angela said grimly. Melissa, we need to land immediately. No more practice approaches. We're doing this now. The controller coordinated with emergency services. All units, be advised, aircraft is losing fuel. We're bringing her straight in. Angela pulled up the approach charts for DFW runway 18R, the longest runway, giving them the most margin for error. Melissa, I need you to find the radio panel and tune to tower frequency 124.15. How do I? Look for a panel with frequency numbers. There should be knobs to change them. I see it. Set it to 124.15. After some fumbling. Done. Good. Now you're talking directly to the tower. They're going to clear you for straight-in approach to runway 18R. Do you see the runway out the window? I see. There are a lot of runways. Angela looked at the radar. You're 15 miles out. You won't see it clearly yet. Melissa, we're going to start descending. Find the altitude select on the autopilot panel. I see it. What altitude does it show? 12,000. I need you to turn that down to 3,000 feet. Just turn the knob. Yes. Slowly. Turn it counterclockwise until it reads 3,000. Melissa did it. The plane began a gentle descent. Oh God, we're going down. That's supposed to happen. The autopilot is following your command. You're doing perfectly. Over the next 10 minutes, Angela walked Melissa through every step, setting the approach speed, extending the flaps, lowering the landing gear. Each instruction was met with Melissa's terrified questions and Angela's patient, calm responses. I can see the runway now, Melissa said, her voice shaking. It looks so small. It's 200 feet wide and 13,000 feet long. Plenty of room. Melissa, you're 3 miles out. We're going to disconnect the autopilot now. I need you to put your hands on the yoke, the control wheel in front of you. I'm going to crash. I'm going to kill everyone. You're not going to crash. I'm flying this plane with you. Hands on the yoke. Okay, they're on. Feel how it moves. That's the autopilot still flying. When I tell you, you're going to press the disconnect button on the yoke. It's usually a red button under your thumb. I feel it. Don't press it yet. First, I need you to understand. When you disconnect, you're flying the plane. Pull back on the yoke, the nose goes up. Push forward, it goes down. Turn left, the plane turns left. Turn right, it turns right. But Melissa, every movement should be gentle. Small corrections. Don't overcorrect. This is insane. I can't. You can. UARE. 2 miles out. Melissa, disconnect the autopilot. Now. A click. Then a gasp. It's all me. Oh God, it's all me. You're doing fine. Keep the nose pointed at the runway. Small corrections. How does it feel? Heavy. Really heavy. That's normal. You're going 140 knots with full flaps. The yoke is supposed to feel heavy. 1 mile out. Melissa, this is important. Do you see the runway lights? They should make a path. I see them. Follow those lights. Keep the nose pointed right down the middle. And Melissa, when I tell you to flare, to pull back on the yoke, you're going to do it smoothly and firmly. Not too much, not too little. I'll count you through it. I can barely see. Everything's blurry. Use the lights. Follow the lights. Half a mile. Quarter mile. Every emergency vehicle in DFW was lined up along the runway. Lights flashing. In the tower, everyone held their breath. Angela's voice was steady as steel. Melissa, you're over the threshold. Throttle back. Pull the power to idle. Where's the throttle? Center console. 2 big levers. Pull them back slowly. Melissa did. The plane dropped slightly. Now flay. Pull back on the yoke. Pull back. Melissa pulled. And here's where everything could have gone wrong. She pulled too hard. The nose pitched up sharply, and the plane ballooned, lifting back into the air instead of settling onto the runway. Too much. Angela's voice cut through. Push forward. Level it out. Melissa overcorrected, shoving the yoke forward. The plane dove toward the runway. Pull back. Gently. Gently. The plane's landing gear hit the runway hard. So hard that passengers screamed. Overhead bins popped open. The aircraft bounced back into the air. Stay with it. Angela commanded. You're going to touch down again. Let it settle. Don't fight it. The plane hit again. Still hard, but not as severe. This time it stayed down. Brakes. Angela shouted. Top of the pedals. Push the tops of the rudder pedals. Melissa stomped on the brakes. The plane lurched, skidded, fishtailed. Not so hard. You'll blow the tires. Steady pressure. The plane was decelerating, but they were going so fast, and the runway was disappearing beneath them. Reverse thrust. Angela said. The throttle levers. Pull them up and back. Melissa found the levers and yanked. The roar of the engines reversing filled the cockpit. The plane shook violently, but it was slowing. Slower. Slower. And finally, 3/4 of the way down the runway, the Boeing 737 came to a complete stop. For a moment, there was absolute silence. Then the radio erupted. 2156, you're down. You did it. In the cockpit, Melissa slumped forward, sobbing. In the tower, Angela sagged against the console, her legs trembling. The controller grabbed her shoulder. Admiral, you just saved 187 lives. Melissa saved 187 lives, Angela corrected quietly. I just gave her instructions. Emergency crews swarmed the aircraft. Hazmat teams boarded to assess the contamination. Medical personnel evacuated passengers, starting with the most critical. Captain Hayes and First Officer Martinez were rushed to the hospital. And Melissa Crawford, the woman who'd humiliated a decorated military officer for the crime of being black in first class, was carried off the plane on a stretcher, barely conscious but alive. Because the woman she'd wronged had saved her anyway. 3 days later, Angela stood in the hospital room where Melissa was recovering. The investigation had concluded. A faulty air circulation valve had leaked carbon monoxide into the aircraft's ventilation system. The pilots, who'd been in the cockpit the longest, had gotten the highest dose. The leak had started before takeoff, which meant if Angela had been on that flight, she likely would have been incapacitated too. Her removal from the plane, unjust, racist, humiliating, had inadvertently saved everyone aboard. Melissa looked up as Angela entered. Her eyes filled with tears. You came. I came. Angela pulled up a chair. I didn't think you would. After what I did to you. You made assumptions based on my race. You humiliated me, accused me of fraud, and had me removed from a flight I had every right to be on. Angela's voice was calm but firm. What you did was wrong. It was racist. And it's not okay. I know. Melissa was crying now. I know. And I'm so sorry. I have no excuse. I saw a black woman in first class and I assumed you didn't belong. I've done it before. To other passengers. Other people of color. I convinced myself I was just doing my job, but I was really just acting on my biases. Why are you telling me this? Because you saved my life. You saved all of us. You had every reason to walk away, to let me fail, to let me face consequences for what I did to you. But you didn't. You stayed. You talked me through the scariest moment of my life. You were patient and kind even though I didn't deserve it. Melissa met Angela's eyes. Why? Angela was quiet for a long moment. Because those 187 people didn't deserve to die for your mistakes. Because my oath to serve doesn't come with conditions. And because... She paused. Because I want to believe people can change. But Melissa, wanting to believe it isn't enough. You have to actually do the work. I will. I am. I've already met with the airline. I'm resigning. That's a start. But it's not enough. What else can I do? Learn. Really learn about your biases and where they come from. Listen to the people you've hurt. Use your experience to speak out against the kind of discrimination you practiced. And understand that this isn't a one-time thing. This is a lifetime of unlearning and relearning and choosing to do better every single day. Melissa nodded, wiping her eyes. The news is calling you a hero. I'm not a hero. I'm a pilot who did her job. You're more than that. You. Melissa's voice broke. You're everything I should have seen when you sat down in that seat. You accomplished and honorable and dignified and brave. And I was too blinded by my own prejudice to see any of it. Be honest. Would you have forgiven her? The story went national. Decorated Admiral saves flight after being removed for racism, read the headlines. Angela gave one interview to a black news anchor who asked the question everyone wanted to know. Admiral Matthews, how did you find it in yourself to help the woman who humiliated you? Angela thought carefully before answering. I didn't do it for her. I did it for the innocent people on that plane. For the children and elderly passengers and crew members who had done nothing wrong. They deserved to live, regardless of what one flight attendant had done to me. But you must have felt angry. I did. I was furious, hurt, humiliated. But here's what I've learned in 28 years of military service. Anger is a luxury you can't afford in a crisis. When lives are on the line, you put aside your feelings and you do your job. You make the hard choice. You choose service over self. Do you think the flight attendant has learned from this? I think she has an opportunity to learn. Whether she takes it or not is up to her. But I hope she does. Because this isn't just about one woman's racism. It's about a system that enables it. It's about the assumptions we make about who belongs in certain spaces. It's about the price black people pay every single day for the comfort of others. What do you want people to take away from your story? Angela looked directly into the camera. I want black people to know that they belong. Everywhere. In first class, in positions of authority, in spaces where people try to make them feel small. Your dignity is not up for debate. Your humanity is not conditional. And you don't have to be a Rear Admiral for your life to have value. She paused. And I want people like Melissa Crawford to understand that your bias has real consequences. Your assumptions can hurt people. Your prejudice can destroy lives. And just because you've gotten away with it before doesn't mean it's right. What's next for you, Admiral? Angela smiled. I'm retiring from active duty next month. And I'm starting a foundation to provide flight training scholarships for young people of color. Because the best way to combat assumptions about who belongs in a cockpit is to put more of us there. 6 months later, Angela stood at a podium at the Naval Academy, giving the commencement address. In the audience sat her family, her husband Marcus, her 3 children, her mother who'd cried when her baby girl first put on a Navy uniform. Also in the audience, Melissa Crawford. She'd reached out 2 months earlier, asking if she could attend. Asking if there was any way she could support Angela's foundation. Asking for permission to share her story as a cautionary tale about racism and redemption. Angela had said yes. Not because she'd fully forgiven. Forgiveness was a process, not an event. but because she believed in second chances for people who genuinely wanted to change. Graduates, Angela said, her voice carrying across the stadium. You're entering a world that will make assumptions about you based on how you look, where you're from, what you sound like. Some of you will be underestimated. Some will be dismissed. Some will be told you don't belong. She scanned the faces of the young midshipmen, the diversity that her generation had fought so hard to achieve. Here's what I need you to understand. Their assumptions are not your truth. Their limitations are not your ceiling. Their discomfort is not your problem to solve. You belong in every space you have the qualifications to occupy. You deserve every opportunity you have the skills to seize. And you owe no one an explanation for your excellence. The graduates erupted in applause. But here's the hard part, Angela continued when they quieted. When you achieve success, and you will, you're going to face a choice. You can use your power to exclude others the way you were excluded. You can become the thing you fought against. Or you can use your power to open doors, to change systems, to ensure the next generation doesn't have to fight as hard as you did. She thought about that moment in the tower, the choice she'd had to make. 6 months ago, I had to make that choice. A woman who had wronged me needed my help to save her life and the lives of 186 other people. I could have walked away. I had justification, but I didn't, because my oath to serve is bigger than my pain. My commitment to protecting life is stronger than my anger. She leaned into the microphone. That's what I'm asking of you. Be bigger than your pain. Be stronger than your anger. Be committed to service even when it costs you. Because that's what leadership looks like. That's what honor demands. And that's what will change the world. The standing ovation lasted 3 minutes. Ending. The moral after the ceremony. Angela stood with Melissa in the late afternoon sun. Thank you for letting me be here, Melissa said quietly. Thank you for doing the work. Real work. I've seen your advocacy. Melissa had spent the last 6 months speaking at airline industry conferences about implicit bias. She'd testified before Congress about the need for better anti-discrimination training. She donated her entire severance package to Angela's foundation. She was trying. I'll never be able to make up for what I did, Melissa said. To you, to the others I profiled over the years. No, you can't make up for it. But you can make sure it doesn't happen again. You can use your story to help others see their own biases. You can be part of the solution. Is that enough? Angela considered. I don't know, but it's something. And something is better than nothing. They stood in silence for a moment. Then Melissa asked the question that had been haunting her. Why did you really save us? The truth. Angela looked at her, really looked at her, and saw not just the woman who'd wronged her, but a human being grappling with her own failings. Because I took an oath to protect and serve. Not to protect and serve only the people who look like me or treat me well. To protect and serve. Period. She paused. And because I needed to prove, to myself more than anyone, that I'm better than the worst thing anyone's ever done to me. That my character isn't defined by others' cruelty, but by my own choices. You're a better person than I am. No, I'm just a person who's had more practice choosing service over self. You can learn that too, if you keep trying. Melissa nodded, tears streaming down her face. And Angela walked away, toward her family, toward the next chapter of her life. She carried with her the weight of that day, the humiliation, the anger, the fear, the triumph. But she also carried the knowledge that she had chosen right over easy, that she had saved lives while preserving her own dignity, that she had shown the world what grace under pressure looked like. Admiral Angela Matthews' victory was more than personal. It reminded every Black woman watching that dignity is non-negotiable, that excellence is its own defense, and that the highest form of strength is using your power to protect even those who've wronged you. Not because they deserve it, but because you deserve to be the kind of person who chooses service over vengeance, who chooses life over pride, who chooses to be better than the circumstances that tried to diminish you. That's the real heroism. Not landing the plane, but landing it with grace.